I'm George Curtis. Welcome to It's Your Law. Each week it's my privilege to bring guests that teach us about the law, how it's made, broken, enforced, could be enforced a little better, and maybe changed for the benefit of the community. It's a delight to bring guests who have worked in the law. Not important whether I agree with them or they agree with me. It's important that they get you thinking about, is this what I had in mind for the law that's going to manage my family, my business, my future? And if not, as a citizen in this country, you can do something about it. It's a big treat for me when I can bring somebody to you as a guest who's had a little different path than I have, that can give you a different point of view and has the experience and the education to back it up. Today's guest has all of those things. It's attorney Russ Reff, who's been practicing law here in the Oshkosh area for about 50 years. And he's had the good sense and the intelligence to develop some bad habits that we exercise if we know how to retire. And he's moving on to other things, but he's got a lot to share with us about his experience and expertise as a 50-year lawyer and a very successful one. Russ,
Thank you, George.
Thank you very much. So you're originally from Oshkosh?
Yes, born and raised in Oshkosh. Lived across from South Park on Ohio Street until I was in first grade. And then we moved way out on the west side to Meadow Street. Before there was the North or West High School, and Highway 41 was a two-lane road, and been in Oshkosh pretty much ever since.
And where did you go to law school?
University of Wisconsin.
In Madison?
Yes.
Same place most of us went. It was a good law school, and it wasn't very expensive compared with the others.
An excellent law school.
Did you know you were coming back to Oshkosh?
I spent a couple summers when I was in college working out east for an attorney, doing errands in his law office in Connecticut, and I thought about practicing out there, but that was a whole different world. There was a lot of corruption and a lot of crazy things going on.
We're pretty lucky. When we look back at it, both of us have had more than our share of miles and cases here. I think it's fair to say, and please shoot me down, it's clean here.
It really is, and it really always has been. We've been fortunate, I think, to have honest, hardworking, good attorneys in Winnebago County for the most part.
And good judges.
Yes, yes.
And of course, it's the judges that have the mix bowl and the spoon that keep things moving. It takes good judges that are conscientious because they get paid the same for not working as working. But we've had good judges to keep the process operating efficiently and fairly, I think.
Yeah, I think the judges that I practiced in front of, particularly early in my career, were excellent judges. And as you know, back then we had circuit court judges and county judges. And I think about Judge Arpin and Judge Crane, who were the circuit judges back then. I mean, both real students of the law, tried a great case, were fair, had allowed the attorneys to have a little bit of fun, as you and I did in some of the cases we went up against each other in.
Absolutely. But your first job was with the DA's office.
Yeah, that's correct. And actually, when I was in law school, we had what was called the student practice rule. So if you had an internship during the summer in law school and were working for an attorney, you could actually practice law under the supervision of the attorney. So actually, between my first and second year of law school, Leo Mack, who you may remember, had been appointed as district attorney. And Leo was a great boss. He was a great guy, but he had worked for the Department of Revenue in Madison in the estate tax division and really knew virtually nothing about criminal law. So I was there as an intern, and we had two horrific criminal cases, the Holland and Hoppy cases, as you might remember. Two co-eds living off campus. Two thugs from Oshkosh broke into their apartment and sexually assaulted both of them, actually killed one of them, and was in the process of strangling the other one when the guys downstairs heard the ruckus and chased these guys away. So Leo and I walked into those two cases, two first-degree murder cases that summer, and I actually got to second chair, sit next to him in the courtroom. I actually got to examine some witnesses in a first-degree murder trial between my first and second year of law school, which was an amazing experience.
Oh, an exciting one. If that doesn't get it in your blood, nothing would. It would either get you going or get you out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So then what was your goal after you had that taste?
Well, you know, back then the DA's office was really a place where you showcased yourself. If you were a young attorney and you were working in the DA's office, the older attorneys kind of watched how you operated, and then eventually you'd get offered a job with one of the local law firms. And I never intended to stay in the district attorney's office very long. I was there for about 2 years, but I got, you know, tremendous experience.
Okay, and when you got out, is that when you went with Hib Engler and that group?
Yeah, actually, Joe Hildebrand, as you know well, Joe did a lot of criminal defense work at that time, and the whole thing with the district attorney's office was interesting because when I took the job, the deal was when Leo Mack retired, I was going to be appointed as district attorney. And then Leo decided not to retire. And he told me that, and I was a little bit angry. I was walking down the hallway on the 4th floor of the courthouse, and Joe Hildebrand said, "What's wrong?" And I told him the story about, you know, Leo had decided not to retire, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And Joe said, "Well, would you like to work with us?" And, you know, and then Bob Hawley, who worked as an assistant DA with me at that time, took the district attorney's job and eventually became a judge. So that event took me on a whole different career path, and frankly a much better one, I think, than if I had become district attorney and you know, gone in that direction.
Oh, I certainly agree. Maybe you didn't know which direction you wanted to go at the moment, and we're about to take our first break, but when I come back I'm going to ask you about that firm, because at that time there were two very large, prominent law firms in Winnebago County, and it was indeed a privilege to be invited to work for either one of them. And you were given that privilege. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. I'm George Curtis. Our guest is Attorney Russ Reff, soon to be retired Attorney Russ Reff after approximately 50 years of outstanding service with an outstanding firm. Tell us a little bit about the firm that you were invited to join after your stint in the DA's office.
When I joined the firm and Joe Hildebrand recruited me, it was Steinhilber Cheney, Flanagan, Steinhilber Cheney, and Hildebrand. And of course, Jack Steinhilber had been, a state senator, I believe. Wayne Cheney was kind of going into the restaurant business at that point with Mars and the Red Lantern and the Blue Lantern, so he wasn't around much. But Finton Flanagan and Joe Hildebrand were really my mentors there, and both great guys. Fint was a tremendous attorney, real estate, probate, estate planning. I always said I learned so much from Fint because we shared a common wall, and Fint was a little hard of hearing. So I could hear him counseling his clients through my wall,
Sure.
Sitting in my office. So I learned a lot about law through the wall from Fint, and Joe was just a tremendous person. Great compassion for his clients, practical guy, more worried about doing the right thing than making money. So I learned a lot about the human side of practicing law from Joe, and the legal stuff, a lot of the technical legal stuff from Fint. But it was a great opportunity. And then gradually those people dropped out, and it got down at one point, it was just Flanagan and Reff. And at that point, the Nolan, Engler, Yakes, and Bauer firm was splitting up. And they invited the remaining members, who were Hib Engler and Frank Slattery, Gene Bevere, and John Birmingham, asked us to join them, and we merged our firm with them. And boy, I can't even remember the names. The names have changed so many times over the years.
But that was a well-established firm. That firm and the Dempsey firm, I think, were the two biggest firms that I recall at that stage, and really filled with a lot of tradition, outstanding lawyers who were prominent in the state bar. In fact, Charlie Nolan was a candidate for state bar president against one of the O'Melias. Of Rhinelander. I remember I backed O'Melia and eventually ended up briefly with that firm myself.
Yeah, your picture is, we actually have you in the firm scrapbook, George, but...
Are there any dart marks? Well, anyway, this isn't about...
I think there was a big X.
I don't have to defend myself. You do. Tell us about your career after you went with the Nolan firm.
Well, you know, the nice thing about being an attorney is your practice can evolve. And I, started out, I loved the trial aspect of it. I loved being in the DA's office and being in court every day, most of the day. When I left the DA's office, as you know, when you first go into private practice, you pretty much do anything you can make a buck doing. So I did a little bit of everything, and then when I had enough clients in the areas I liked, I kind of morphed out of things. Divorce was the first thing I got out of. That's horrible. You're just dealing with people at their worst, and usually if you get a fair result, nobody's happy. Getting paid in divorces was always a big challenge. So eventually I just kind of morphed into real estate planning, business, transactional things of that nature, more of an office practice.
And that firm has more than its share of representing banks, lenders, local corporations. I don't know many corporate leaders, but those I do know, I was introduced to by Charlie Nolan or Hib Engler. They had an inside path along with the Dempsey firm to the people who were well-heeled and successful.
Yeah, I inherited really a great group of clients, and that's the way it works with young attorneys. I inherited a lot of Fenton Flanagan's real estate and business clients, and that became kind of the core of the practice. Plus, every law firm has all kinds of wills, so there are a lot. The probate kind of rolls in as people pass away, and that helps as well.
Well, this is a good opportunity to talk about the functions of a lawyer as you practice law for individuals and businesses, because I've never done that kind of work. I've been limited to people who started out mad. They either were suing somebody or being sued by somebody. And so the good lawyers, the best lawyers, steered their clients in such a way that they never got to meet George Curtis. and you were one of those lawyers. Tell me about that process.
Well, I think, everybody thinks, the law is about reading law books and citing cases and finding precedents, and it's really more about reading people and understanding situations and helping people make the right decisions so they don't end up with somebody like you. And one of the things that people would come to you and say, I don't care what it costs, it's a matter of principle. And I always said to that tells me you're about to do something stupid. So so let's think about that. Let's talk about the alternatives. Let's talk about what that really involves, because you can say suing somebody or going to court sounds easy to say, but as you know, it's a expensive process, it's an emotionally draining process, it's a stressful process. So generally the last thing you want to do is end up in court, because you never know what the outcome's going to be in court, particularly with jury trials. I mean, jury trials, as you know, are crazy. I mean, half the time it's about whether they like your client or you more than it is about what the facts and circumstances of the case are. And that was one of the reasons I got out of litigation. It was just, I'm kind of a control freak, and when you put something in front of 12 people who are all wild cards, you never know what you're going to get, and you can second guess yourself 1,000 times if you didn't get the result that you got. But some of those times when you'd call a juror up after that and say, what happened? What did I do wrong? What they would tell you would be absolutely astounding. I mean, I think you've had those experiences.
Well, I stopped calling jurors, but I didn't want to hear the answer. But you're absolutely right. The most successful lawyers I know are those that never had a jury trial. They managed to keep their clients steered away from gambling. I got the people after the system had failed, and I loved that. It was an absolute dramatic opportunity to participate in the class play with a new play every week. But you really didn't know how it was going to come out. You won for the wrong reasons sometimes, and you lost for the wrong reasons, and people don't understand it. Let's take our second break, and we'll come back. And I want you to kind of take a view of the legal system as we have it in Wisconsin and tell the people what they've got and what they're paying for. We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Your Law. I'm George Curtis. My guest is Russ Reff, who is retiring after an illustrious, approximately 50-year career of success here in Oshkosh, his hometown. He has activities planned, not nearly as many as his wife does, but that's his problem. He reminded me off camera that I had offered him a job, and I don't doubt that at all, because I've always admired him and liked him, and he had the good sense to say no. But in our last segment, I want your views about the legal system, about whether you would recommend people to consider law as a career, and the role that law plays in our society, and whether it's succeeding or failing. And of course, you can't do all of that in 8 minutes, so get going.
All right. Well, I mean, the first thing I want to say, George, is I don't think there's anything that I would have rather done than practice law. For me, practicing law was an extremely rewarding thing to do. I mean, it gave me satisfaction. I got to help people. I got to have some excitement in the courtroom. It's been a fantastic career. Unfortunately, I don't think the legal profession now is what it was then. As you know, back then, it was a whole different world. I mean, all the attorneys respected the judges. The district attorney's office respected the judges. No one would ever publicly question a decision that a judge made. I mean, we might talk to them in chambers, or we might make comments, but it was a whole different world. And we had some great judges. That was probably the core of the whole thing that made it work. It's changed. As I said, when I was in the district attorney's office, that was a short-term job. You basically were showcasing yourself. Now it's a career, and the unfortunate thing about both the public defenders and the district attorneys is they're not paid enough, and even the judges are not paid enough, because what happens is the most talented people chase the money. They go into private practice. The great trial lawyers are doing the litigation and getting the 7-figure verdicts, and they're 25 or 35% fees. The business attorneys are making much more money than the judges or the public defenders or the district attorney's office, and that really makes the system difficult, because the job has just evolved. Back in the day, the judges tried a lot of cases. Now the whole system pushes people away from trying cases. So the judges are turning files more than they're trying cases and doing the things that the judges did back, I guess, in our day. So I think that's unfortunate. And this AI thing, frankly, scares me. It's, what it's going to be able to do. Frankly, I think it's going to replace a lot of things that attorneys do, and that's a scary thing. I know law school admissions are down, and I think that's one of the reasons for it, is the legal profession, unfortunately, isn't what it used to be.
Well, I've been told, as I'm trying to hire people, I'm looking for some younger people, and at my age of 87, it shouldn't be hard to find somebody younger, that many of the law firms, except in the Madison area and the Milwaukee area, are having a difficult time getting law graduates that are willing to practice. And there are many communities up north that do not have a lawyer. They've got empty law offices where the lawyer just retired, got sick, or died. And so the profession is failing to be attractive to young people who want to serve in rural communities.
Yeah, we're actually, Todd Slegter, who took over my practice, who's a great attorney, just told me the other day he's getting referrals from attorneys out in Green Lake County and up in the Shawano area, because there are no young attorneys there. One of the attorneys in Shawano said, we used to have 15 attorneys. We're down to 3 now. He said, I can't retire. I don't have anybody to send my clients to. So it's getting to be a problem.
And who's going to serve those people? Another thing that we're bumping into, and you alluded to it, is back 20, 30 years ago, we tried cases. I tried 25 or more jury trials many years. I'm a member of ABOTA, which is an invitation-only trial lawyers group. We used to have the requirement of 100 jury trials before you would be invited to ABOTA. Now we're looking for lawyers with 10. Most of these TV lawyers, first of all, aren't lawyers, they're actors. Secondly, those that are lawyers aren't lawyers anymore, they aren't practicing. But that's how people are choosing their lawyers today, from TV actors who aren't lawyers. In fact, I asked my son George, who practices in Portland, about a certain Hollywood group that's selling for a competitor of mine in Milwaukee. He said, well, I'll tell you in a week. I just bought him a check for $50,000. He practices in Portland. They're actors promoting his firm in Portland. And so the advertising thing has kind of confused the public a little bit as to who actually is going to get in the trenches and work for them.
And that's another big change, because as you know, for years it was unethical to advertise. And yeah, now it's a whole different ball game. It's who can have the most ads and the biggest ads, and who can have William Shatner. And
Shatner's the guy.
Yeah.
Don't knock him. He works for my kid in Portland. He gets over $100,000 a year by pretending he's my son.
No, that's been another big change, is that, and you have the big state firms, basically advertising all over the state and taking the cases away from the local attorneys. Okay. And that's another thing that was a big source of revenue that, is moving.
Well, we have to finish. It's not about Russ Reff. I congratulate you on a great career. It's not about George Curtis. I'm going to keep fighting because I don't want to mow the grass. But it's about our system. Is it serving the public? Are you happy with the choice you made for your life's work?
I'm absolutely happy with the choice I made. And I think generally the system is still serving the public. I'm not sure it's doing as good a job as it did in the past. It's like a lot of other things. It just isn't what it used to be. And, that's unfortunately true of our country as a whole.
And you've done your part today. You told them what they're paying for, and you told them about the part they're not getting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure. Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Russ Reff for being on the show, for 50 years of professional service to the people of Winnebago County, for a real class approach to being a public servant. We are fortunate here in Winnebago County. good lawyers, good judges, good citizens. That's the right combination. Beginning with the home, continuing through the school, the formal education. Let's keep our standards high, and this will be a great place for our grandchildren to live as well. I'm George Curtis, and that's my opinion.